In 4000 BBY, the dark tide of war swept across Onderon. The Naddist army, led by Novar, Queen Amanoa's ruthless apprentice, launched a full-scale assault against the Beast Riders, the fierce warriors of Onderon's Wild Moon jungles. Empowered by ancient Sith techniques, Amanoa channeled dark side energy to strengthen her forces and overwhelm the enemy. For a time, it worked. Her army surged forward, bolstered by dark magic and discipline. But the arrival of Jedi Master Archijeth and his knights changed everything. Drawing upon ancient Jedi battle meditation, Jeth reversed the momentum of the conflict, reviving the Beast Riders' morale, while sapping the will of the Naddist Darksiders. What began as a Sith-led assault ended in a decisive defeat. The Beast Riders stood victorious.
You are listening to the Star Lores Podcast. I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Are you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder?
But I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
The Uprising.
2 years later, war returned to Onderon. This time, the threat came directly from the shadows. King Omin, Amanoa's husband and a powerful sorcerer in his own right, emerged from the depths of a new dark side army. Commanding from a life-sustaining exoskeleton, Omin unleashed Sith war droids and legions of corrupted followers upon the Jedi and the Galactic Republic. At his side stood Warb Null, a dark Jedi clad in black armor, leading the ground assault from the front lines. But once again, Archijeth and the Jedi responded with precision and power. Through the same battle meditation that had turned the tide years before, Jeth broke Omin's army. The Sith forces fell, Omin was struck down, and the dark grip on Onderon was shattered. Peace, however fragile, was restored once more.
Structure. The Naddist army was built on a strict hierarchy. The monarch of Iziz, Queen Amanoa, or King Amen, held ultimate command. Orders flowed through their advisors and field commanders, with Novar acting as the de facto general under Amanoa's reign. Not content to merely issue commands from afar, Novar often joined his troops in the thick of battle, a symbol of Sith discipline and brutality. Infantry and urban defense. The core of the Naddist forces consisted of darkside adepts, fanatics devoted to the legacy of Frida Nad. These were not mindless troops. They were zealots, trained in Sith doctrine and willing to die for it. Officers led from the front, stationed on the walls of Iziz, or embedded in street-level skirmishes. Snipers lurked in hidden vantage points throughout the city, targeting intruders and thinning enemy ranks with precision. The Royal Protectors. Queen Amanoa's personal defense fell to an elite cadre known as the Royal Protectors. Clad in ceremonial white armor and cloaks, they were far from ornamental. Their helmets concealed their identities completely, giving them an eerie, inhuman appearance, armed with bladed staves and energy weapons. They were swift, efficient killers, serving both as bodyguards and enforcers of the Queen's will. Sith elite warbots. Forged in the depths of the ancient Sith Empire, Sith elite warbots were battle droids of formidable design and purpose. Though branded as warbots, their role extended far beyond the battlefield. These machines often served as elite security for high-ranking Sith officials, who trusted the cold precision of a pair of warbots over an entire squad of organic guards. Their imposing presence alone was often enough to deter threats. Despite their protective role, elite warbots were lethal in combat. Masterfully crafted, they excelled in both ranged and melee engagements. Their construction was expensive, which limited their numbers, but those deployed were highly effective, respected, and feared in equal measure. Each was heavily armored and typically equipped with dual blasters, though their true edge came from their primary weapon, an alchemically forged Sith sword. This dark blade could deflect blaster fire and go toe-to-toe with lightsabers. Specialized training variants also existed, armed instead with stun blasters and batons. However, these softer warbots maintained the same unforgiving programming as their battlefield counterparts, making them merciless instructors. First developed around 5000 BBY, Sith elite warbots made their debut under the command of Dark Lord Nagasadao during the Great Hyperspace War. Many were lost in the conflict, but some survived, hidden, deactivated, or sealed away in Sith tombs, like those on Korriban. In the centuries that followed, they reappeared in later dark-side conflicts, such as the Great Sith War, the Jedi Civil War, and even the Naddist Uprising on Onderon, where a distinctive variant with black armor, resembling Warb Null, was used. By the time of the modern era, these warbots had faded into legend. Few remained active, most gathering dust in ancient ruins or Sith vaults. Yet occasionally, explorers or collectors would stumble across one still intact, still dangerous, and still loyal to the dark legacy of the Sith. Wave Gunners. The Wave Gunners were the last line of defense for the city of Isis. Stationed in defense towers along the outer wall, these soldiers operated ion cannons and turbo blasters to repel airborne and ground assaults. Like the Royal Protectors, they wore full white armor and visored helmets to shield them from the blinding light of their own weaponry. But despite their defenses, they remained vulnerable. Accurate blaster fire could pierce their armor and bring them down. From the jungles beyond Isis to the halls of the royal palace, the Naddist army fought to resurrect a dead empire. But in both wars, it was Jedi discipline, not dark-side fury, that carried the day. And in the ashes of defeat, the legacy of Frida Nand slipped once more into shadow. War leaders.
At the head of the armies of Onderon were the king and queen, but other powerful warriors would find themselves in positions of great power as commanders and leaders. Novar was born into one of the wealthiest and most powerful families in the capital city of Isis, and he seemed destined for influence. Groomed in privilege and sharpened by ambition, he entered the court of King Omin before reaching his 12th season. His path to power was paved with his father's connections, not merit, but Novar would soon prove that raw cunning could carry him farther than lineage ever could. After over a decade of studying diplomacy and subterfuge at the elite University of Ov Teraba, Novar secured a position as assistant to Tolo Cad, King Omin's top advisor. It was supposed to be a ceremonial role, one more title for a spoiled noble's son. Instead, it became the crucible that forged a master manipulator.
Rise. Under Cad's tutelage, Novar learned the true language of politics, espionage, disinformation, and quiet threats whispered behind closed doors. He adapted quickly, shaping himself to fit any room, any role, always saying what people wanted to hear. while quietly arranging their ruin. Over time, he took on more of Cad's duties, executing them with flawless efficiency, but credit always went to Cad. Eventually, Novar decided enough was enough. He orchestrated the perfect betrayal. A lavish state dinner, supposedly planned by Cad, was left in total disarray. Guests arrived to find no food, no attendants, no security, nothing but confusion. King Amen, frail but still dangerously volatile from decades of dark side exposure, was furious in a terrifying outburst of Sith power. He struck Cad down before the royal court. Novar watched with fascination and opportunity. With Cad's ashes still cooling, Novar was promoted to Minister of State and became Amen's chief aide. But his ambition didn't end there. The display of dark side power had ignited something in him. He craved it. Acolyte.
Recognizing Novar's force sensitivity and seeing in him a useful servant, King Omen began training him in the ways of the Sith. Under Omen's guidance, and later under Queen Amanoa, Novar learned to wield dark side powers like the Bolt of Hatred, becoming a minor Sith adept and trusted figure in the cult of Frida Nad. When the Jedi, Ulic and Kay Keldroma, along with Twi'lek Knight Tot Donita, arrived on Onderon in 4000 BBY to mediate the brutal Beast Wars, it was Novar who greeted them and brought them before Queen Amanoa. But peace was not what he wanted. After a daring raid by the Beast Riders resulted in the abduction of Princess Gallia, the Jedi pursued, only to return at the head of a Beast Rider army, having uncovered the Sith corruption within Iziz. In the battle that followed, Novar fought fiercely, severing the arm of Kay Keldroma. But it wasn't enough. The Beast Riders prevailed, Amanoa fell, and Novar fled into the shadows, only to return to the service of King Omen once more.
Fall. By 3998 BBY, Novar remained at the side of the ailing King Omen. Once clean-shaven and sharp, he now bore a long graying beard and remained hidden deep within the royal catacombs. When two unexpected guests arrived, Satal and Alima Keto, heirs to the Empress Tita system. They came bearing a stolen Sith spellbook, lifted from the Galactic Museum on Coruscant, and sought guidance in unlocking its secrets. Amen, intrigued, offered Satal a Sith amulet that granted the ability to read the ancient language. In return, he demanded the right to copy the book. The deal was struck, and Novar was given the task of transcribing the text. But the dark peace was short-lived. Soon after, a strike team of 7 Jedi, Ulic and Kay Keldroma, Nomi Sunrider, Tot Donita, Os Willem, Dace Diath, and Shoaneb Kulu, stormed Amen's subterranean lair. The battle was swift and brutal. Novar fell, cut down in the chaos, and Amen perished soon after. The Jedi had come for justice, and left no corner of the darkness untouched. The Ketos, however, escaped with the Sith artifacts in hand, survivors of the Purge and future architects of a greater war. Novar was many things: a politician, a tactician, a manipulator. His ability to weave lies, orchestrate plots, and cloak his true intentions made him one of the most dangerous men in the Onderonian court. He was loyal, fiercely so, to the monarchy, but that loyalty served his ambition as much as his king. He despised the Beast Riders, whom he called his mortal enemies. and held a deep-rooted speciesist disdain for non-humans, shown most clearly in his reaction to meeting the Twi'lek Jedi taught Danita. In battle, he favored a pulse wave blaster, but also carried a dagger, one he once yielded against Oren Kira, the leader of the Beast Riders. As the years passed, he changed in appearance, growing a full beard and shedding much of his earlier bulk, but his mind only grew sharper, and his darkness deeper. Warb Null.
Shas Dovos was born into an age of uneasy peace on the Sith-tainted world of Onderon, a brilliant metalworking student with dreams of creation, not destruction. But dreams have a way of curdling on Onderon. During his studies, Dovos wandered deep into the untamed wilds, where ruins and secrets older than the Republic lay buried. There, among ancient stone and shadow, he uncovered a Sith tome, forgotten by time, but very much alive. The book whispered to him. It fed his curiosity, then his obsession, and it rewrote his destiny. Years passed. Dovos abandoned everything, his work, his life, even his name. In a hidden forge beneath the surface of Onderon, he labored over a suit of armor, fusing Sith incantations with blackened alloys and alchemical fire. When the armor was finally complete, it was not a triumph, it was a trap. The spirit within the tome revealed itself, a ghostly Sith guardian, sentient and cruel. It had chosen Dovos from the start. With a flash of power and a scream lost to history, the spirit fused man and metal, body and will, transforming the innocent craftsman into Warb Null, a silent knight of the Sith.
Slave of Shadows. Warb Null was more than armored muscle. He was a living weapon of the ancient Sith. Enchanted by dark magic and stripped of identity, he became the enforcer of Freedon Nadd's will, leading legions of Naddist cultists in open rebellion against the Jedi and the Republic. His mission? Retrieving the sarcophagi of Queen Amanoa and Freedon Nadd during a state funeral procession through Isis. As the tombs were paraded through the capital streets, Null emerged from the depths at the head of Amon's dark army, riding in hulking ground borers converted from mining machines into mobile weapons of war. With an aura of pure dread radiating from his cursed armor, Null clashed with 4 Jedi at once, Tot Danita, Os Willem, and the Keldroma brothers. The Sith had his prize, and even when outnumbered, he fought like a berserker possessed. The dark magic shielding his mind made him impervious to fear. He didn't retreat, he relocated, falling back to the tunnels with the tombs secured and a war now fully ignited. Deep beneath Isis, Warb Null was ordered to stand against Ula Keldroma, who had come in fury to rescue his fallen master, Arkajeth. The two dueled in the bowels of Onderon. But Null, for all his strength, was expendable. King Amon knew it. Freedon Nadd knew it. Null was never more than a tool, a sacrificial piece in the Dark Lord's game to mold Ulic into a Sith. Keldroma shattered Null's weapon arm, and the towering Sith warrior fell to his knees. He begged. Ulic answered with a single, decisive stroke, beheading the armored giant, ending both the Forge Master's torment and the Sith spirit's disposable night. Warb Null died nameless and unmourned. But his cursed armor lived on. Millennia later, it was unearthed in the mountain crypts of Nikt Ka, still steeped in dark energy, when a Jedi named Telati Kilmammon donned the armor in 19 BBY, visions of the dark side surged through him. Drunk on power, Kilmammon murdered his companions and took a new name, Malleus, the Hammer of the Dark Side. Shas Dovos was curious, gifted, and terribly naive, seduced by the dark side only to be a disposable weapon, a tool to be discarded. By the time he became Warb Null, the man was gone. What remained was a shell of flesh and metal, loyal without question, brutal without mercy. He fought like a titan, wielding a massive green-bladed lightsaber with a hilt fit for a warhammer. His armor, alchemically forged, was studded with black spikes and radiated dread, partially resistant to lightsabers, fully destructive to morale. Null could sense danger through the Force, channel Sith energy in raw bursts, and project a chilling aura that paralyzed lesser minds. But the armor was also his prison, slow, heavy, and ultimately vulnerable. A single exposed joint at his neck would prove fatal.
Now a word from our sponsors.
Out here on the rim, credits don't stretch so far, but I'll stretch your mind farther than a Kessel hyperlane. Step into Griezos dispensary, where we've got glitter stim straight from Kessel, real spice purer than a Jedi's robe, and enough dust sticks to make Coruscant look like a nursery. Medicinals, mood changers, or a midnight trip through the mall, whatever your fix, I've got it cheap, I got it fresh, and I got it quiet. Remember the name, Griezos. Tell them you're a friend, I'll even throw in a stim pack on the house. Out of rim prices, out of rim discretion. Griezos dispensary. No refunds, no questions, and absolutely no Jedi. Can't stand those guys always walking around, cutting off people's arms acting like they know what's good for.
We are currently experiencing some technical difficulties. Please remain calm. Imperial technicians are working to rectify the error.
Welcome aboard the Millennial Falcon. This is Christian.
And this is Jordan.
We're still on Onderon. There's a lot to go over on this planet. So there's a lot of sights to see. There's a lot of places to be. Currently we're in Iziz. Beautiful city.
Yep. Lots of deep history here. The city is wonderful. Romantic. Take your wife on a date here.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I don't know why I'm here with you.
If you want to support the show, make sure to go to patreon.com/starlores, and you can become a Patreon member for just $3 a month, and that gives you access to all of our bonus episodes. For the $5 tier, the master tier. Yes, the master tier. You get access to not only the bonus episodes, but ad-free listening. You can also do single buys on Patreon as well. We also accept PayPal, Bitcoin, and we sell merch on Redbubble. All of the links will be in the description of this show. So if you want to support the show, go ahead and do that. If you can't support monetarily, absolutely not a problem. No big deal, guys. But one big ask that you guys can really, really help us out with is to rate and review the show. So if you go and do that, especially Spotify and Apple Podcasts, those really help out. But anywhere you listen to podcasts, definitely rate and review the show. Also, make sure to reach out to us on all our social media. We are on Discord, Instagram, X, and Facebook. And if you have any other questions, comments, fan fiction, cosplay, collections, anything like that, business inquiries, make sure to send it to starlorespodcast@gmail.com, and we'd love to get in touch with you and get back to you. Anyway, let's continue the history lesson.
The Naddist Uprising.
Yeah,
so we've kind of discussed Arcajeth, like we've discussed the planet of Onderon, the history of Onderon, the Beast Wars, kind of the I was going to say geography, but the interplanetary relationship between Duxon and its moons and everything. But yeah, we're just kind of now seeing the other side of it. We've talked about King Omen and Amanoa, Queen Amanoa, but now we're kind of like dissecting their faction.
Yeah, you kind of see a lot of the realpolitik in this sort of period of history, which is fun. I like that of it.
Yeah, and so this is why we keep harping on Onderon specifically, is this stuff will carry on into the far future of Star Wars. Like, Onderon is always politically divided.
Yeah. Man, they honestly, though, they just got to make like a TV series or a movie about it.
Just Onderon.
Yeah, just about like Old Republic, Onderon. Yeah. Like, do it. Do it now. Like Game of Thrones.
You could, honestly. Yeah. And yeah, that's why we keep coming back to it, because there's just so much to unpack. Like, one episode is not enough to cover the depth of all the factions and sub-factions and everything.
Absolutely.
So currently, we did a whole episode on Frieden Nad, the man, the Sith, the legend, and now we are dealing with the cult that he left behind in his wake.
Yeah.
So we know, the king and queen are already steeped in this like occult mysticism of the dark side. It's just very entrenched with the bloodline and with like the aristocracy and the culture and society of Izzes. And that's where these like cult groups come from. But it's not just them. They have like a legion of these acolytes and warriors that will fight for them. They have war droids that they adopted. All kinds of like... My point is that they're a fairly large sub-faction. Oftentimes when people think of a cult, they think of, a small group of hippies living in a abandoned mansion. But we're talking about like a serious political and military threat.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because we were even sort of discussing this beforehand. We do this. We like to do our real world parallels,
of course,
in our discussion of the Star Wars universe. But it is very common for the occult to like enter into the politic. And we did have an episode a while back called "The Occult Orders of the Empire," and we kind of delve into that as well. But you definitely see those themes running through the story of Onderon as well in the Old Republic. Just to like mention a few sort of more prominent characters in our own history would be like a character like John Dee, who was in the sort of 1500s, just after the Protestant Reformation. Queen Elizabeth I is installed into power, and she's like a Protestant. And back then, if you know the history, there's sort of a war, let's call
sort of a war
between
bad blood.
Yeah, some bad blood between the Protestants and Catholics. Anyway, she came after Queen Mary, who is better known as Bloody Mary, because she was very vicious against non-Catholics. Queen Elizabeth actually had this guy, John Dee, who is like an alchemist, occultist, very prominent. And John Dee, a lot of his writings and his Enochian language that he made up from scratch.
And Enochian being related to like an angelic, pseudo and allegedly pseudo-angelic language.
Yes, exactly. Like Enoch being the character in Genesis who... a character who didn't die but ascended to heaven. Anyways, what do they call that? Assumption or something? I don't know. I can't remember the technical. He was assumed into heaven. I'm not sure. Anyways, blah blah blah. Long story short, John Dee develops allegedly from an angel that encounters him, gives him this language, and he wrote like this whole tome about the Enochian language. And this is used even today in occult circles. And a lot of people invoke John Dee's Enochian language and Enochian rituals to do their silly cosplay, which is mostly...
They're summoning rituals.
Yeah. But not all, but the vast majority of these New Age occultists people, in my opinion, are just cosplaying. They know not what they do. Anyways, John Dee himself, excuse me. Excuse me. John Dee himself was one of Queen Elizabeth's advisors and is actually like credited with coining the term the British Empire. He convinced Queen Elizabeth to build a massive navy and dominate the seas, which at the time Britain was not like a dominant naval power.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. But like you could thank that to John Dee. He was like a leader in cartography. He invented new cartographic systems for navigating the oceans. Some people even credit him with like helping to build a system to help navigate to the Americas, which is interesting, right? So he's like very influential in like real world sciences, but he's also
very much involved in the occult.
Yeah, very involved in the occult, and is very influential in the
That's
occult.
also a theme you see through other historical
yes
overlapping of science and occultism.
Yeah, I just wanted to like evoke him. Like there are a lot of occultists involved in government, which is kind of creepy. And in like the halls of power, even to this day, like if you think of guys like John Podesta, if anyone's familiar, he was like one of Hillary Clinton's close advisors, and he's like quite involved in the occult as well, and is up to some very weird things. Anyways, don't want to get into that rabbit hole, but just pointing it out, that occultism, it seems to cross paths with power a lot, with like real world power.
Politic power.
Real political power. And it is interesting that they like in the story of Onderon and the Naddist Uprising, you see that, like you see that exact
The
thing,
Sith influence,
that same thing happening, and sort of these like these Naddist cults are embedding themselves in political
all
power.
the way up to the royal family.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
yeah, it's very cool.
Frida Nad is like the John Dee
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars.
We didn't make that parallel, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it's out there. Yeah, very cool rabbit trail.
Yeah.
Some other interesting factoids. So kind of breaking down the cult leadership. So you have obviously the king and queen, but kind of focusing in on their two military generals, Novar and Null. They kind of are two sides of a coin, where Novar kind of represents like more of the scheming, insidious side of the Sith. And then again, Null being this like hammer, this brute force object. And you see that parallel duality between like Sidious and Vader, like these things. Obviously, Novar isn't Null's master, but that same kind of dynamic of the dark side. There's that creeping, insidious side to it, and there's also that like brute force side to it. And they both are an interesting running theme throughout Star Wars. And then also Warb Null himself being a very strong parallel to Darth Vader and Darth Maul. His armor,
the armor was
definitely
obvious.
And this comes up a lot in Star Wars, where you have these really cool elements that I don't know if people just really like and they want it to repeat, or that's an intentional attempt at like the rhyming scheme of Star Wars.
Yeah,
where like this black clad warrior kind of emerges as like the big bad, and takes on like 4 Jedi at a time, which is very cool, and is a good achievement on Warp Null. But yeah, again, that like armored parallel.
And I don't know if we quite described him in the episode. I did kind of want to give like a description of how he looks. There is based on like the comic strips that I've pulled up, he kind of has this sort of almost knight-like hulking blue-black armor. Definitely more bulky than Vader, like spikes on the shoulder pad, that kind of thing, and like a very big green lightsaber. Like it is a single blade and a single hilt, but it is larger than most lightsabers. And he almost kind of has this, similar to Vader, with like kind of a samurai
aesthetic.
Yeah, aesthetic.
But he's
helmet.
He has a little, his helmet for sure.
Yeah.
The armor I'd say is more like European medieval,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But he is like a hulking, menacing kind of figure.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you should think when you think Warbnall.
Yeah.
So.
And just speaking back to his lightsaber, the hilt is it reminds me a lot of like a Nodachi, which is like an extra long samurai sword. It's like a two-handed.
Yeah.
That's what the hilt is like. And then the blade, of course, is like a green lightsaber blade, which is an interesting color for a Sith warrior.
Sith, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's actually I think he has a cool aesthetic myself, but
it gives off like very 90s edgelord.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said for it. Just
Yeah.
because it imitates it doesn't mean it's not cool in its own way.
Yeah, I do feel like a lot of this is just a commentary, an aside commentary. It does feel like because no one wants to carbon copy or clone Darth Vader, they kind of stay away from like the Sith armor. There's not a ton of characters that are heavily clad in armor. I don't think so, man.
It depends how you classify armor.
It's like light armor.
Yeah.
What they all have. It's not like
like a
heavy,
full suit of battle
heavy
armor.
And that's what I kind of like about Warbnall.
Yeah.
His persona, that they do actually like
fully embrace the Vader aesthetic.
Yeah.
There's a couple of characters I think I would argue fall into that category, but we'll cross those paths when we get there.
Marco Ragnos, for one. He was one who had like very distinctive armor. And Malgus,
Darth Malgus, yeah. He kind of goes through a progression where he starts out kind of normal and then he starts to don more and more armor until he starts to look more Vader-like.
Okay.
Over time. And then also King Adis has a pretty Vader-esque suit of armor as well.
Okay.
There's a few.
I feel like it's the minority though.
Well, sure.
Like a small minority.
It's one of those things where it's weird that it's happened more than once though.
Yeah. No,
and there's something to be said too, because in the reverse, Vader's armor is said to be inspired by Sith armor as well.
Yes.
So it's not that Vader would be wholly unique in his style of armor.
That's true. Yeah.
Of course, this is all retroactive in our terms because Vader was a character that came first. But in the history of Star Wars, they have this like 1,000-year history of Sith armor to kind of riff off of when they're building Vader's suit. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah, I guess I'm just making more of the point. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing a little more like heavily armored Sith, maybe even Jedi too. Like why does it always just have to be sort of robes and biasing towards agility, right? Instead of just like brute strength. But
we know what Sith philosophy you follow.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, and then the other kind of like disposability aspect, you see that a lot more with Darth Maul as a character, where the Sith use their apprentices as tools.
Yeah,
like Warbnall is very much just a blunt instrument.
Yeah, Mara Jade's kind of like that too. The Emperor's hand, they're just sort of
instruments.
Yeah, instruments they don't really have any aspirations for these tools beyond their usefulness, right? Like they will be discarded eventually.
Yeah, at their earliest convenience.
Yeah.
And it's also
it's not like how maybe the Emperor was grooming Vader to take his place one day or something like that. It's like these are some characters that are just they're useful for a time and then disposable once they're no longer useful.
Yeah. And it should be said too that even Darth Vader kind of falls into that role unintentionally after he's brutally wounded on Mustafar. The Emperor is kind of like, okay, he's not really the full potential version of my apprentice, and slots into that disposability category again.
Maybe. I feel like Vader was more of like a right-hand man though.
But at the drop of a hat, Palpatine would replace him with Luke.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like instantly. Like it's not even a question. Like as soon as someone more powerful, and that is in line with Sith doctrine, right? Like only the powerful have a right to rule. Yeah. And if you are weaker, then you are disposable. Fair. And that's
but if
the same
Luke
of your
wasn't
master
in the
too.
picture, he would just continue.
Well, yeah, of course, because he's the strongest one until someone better comes along.
Yeah.
Right. Again, it's all about utility.
for sure.
But yeah, just delving deep into the Naddist cults, and we will be doing a little bit more exploration with the Onderon story arc, with now from the Jedi perspective with Ulick and Kay Keldroma. Kind of
two big characters.
Speaking back to the cultish influence over aristocracy as well. Two characters we briefly mentioned in this episode, Seitel and Alima Keto. They are also part of the Empress Teta aristocracy, and they're getting involved in like occultism, and they're gonna bring this back in the next kind of phase of this story. So more of this to come, where this like steeping occultish influence kind of like creeps through different powerful families and institutions, and will rear up again in open conflict.
Yeah, I do. It is a weird thing, and making the real world parallels here, I do wonder like why some, not all, like very elite, powerful people engage in sort of occult or ritual magic. I wonder if it's like, is there like a certain paranoia where they're looking for any edge that they can get, and even if it's a shot in the dark, they'll take it, you know? And is that why they engage in that behavior? You know, because there's been a lot of, even like in our country, in Canada, there's a lot of Freemasons. Who, and I know a Freemason maybe isn't technically occult, but it has some parallels.
There's some overlap.
Yeah, there's a lot of like ritual involved that's very similar to occultism, you know. So I don't know. It's just a thought, like why they engage in that.
I'm always hesitant to give one answer to human behavior. I think humans are infinitely complex.
Yeah.
But if I were to guess for a number, like a number of theories could all factor into it. One is what you're saying is this, like, okay, you're at the top of the food chain, you'll look for any edge over a potential opponent. I think there's elements of like boredom, like when you're super rich and super powerful, you just have more free time to get involved with other things that are like, there's got to be more than this.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of hedonism goes hand in hand with that kind of lifestyle as well. And there could be overlaps there. So I'm always hesitant to give a one-word answer for phenomenon.
And to be completely fair, I don't know that like occultism or ritual magic is more prevalent among the power elite than it is among the rest of the population. I don't know that.
Yeah, and you have things like folk religion and stuff like. So where do you draw the line on occultism? Right,
exactly. Like there's an occult TikToker every 5 seconds popping up, right, and they're just a nobody, and it's like, okay, it could just be like there's a number of people that are always going to be involved in it, and because they're powerful, we focus more on it. Yeah,
it's not a statistical aberration when you consider the whole population.
Right.
That's possible too. And then the thing that's difficult about this stuff is it's the whole nature of occultism is to be hidden, right? So
right. Yeah.
It's not like you're doing surveys of like,
that's
what
right.
secret societies are you involved with, and this
exactly.
and that. So,
yeah, interesting stuff. In the halls of power and political intrigue. Yeah. All right. I think that's all I got. Anything else from you?
No.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, make sure to go check us out on check out the Star Lords podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to follow us, make sure to check out the social medias. Just search Star Lords on X, YouTube. Also, I want to shout out YouTube. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Star Lords. And then send us any of your questions, comments, concerns about this episode. StarLordsPodcast@gmail.com. And with that, I think we'll call it.